experiment, astronauts can handle the processing of ore samples on the station. NASA astronauts Christina Cook and Jessica Meir, who completed the first all-woman spacewalk on October 18th, participated in a press conference from orbit on October 21st. The duo answered questions about their 7-hour, 17-minute spacewalk, which included replacing a failed power controller and several other
Pursuing a dream was definitely a privilege and an honor. For us, when we see that many times in our lives, it does make a difference if somebody can identify what they look like and the fact that they have long, curly brown hair. Who knows? Sometimes that makes it easier to have inspiration, have a connection and motivation for something great. So it really does make a difference to have this, to share this experience together. Hopefully it does inspire and educate people.
This week's question comes from Alex. She wants to know if astronauts can learn something important. The answer is yes.
Big drill to create a hole in the ice, and so you can enter through that hole in the ice. The first time you go down, this is 28 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can see rays of light coming in from any crack or hole anywhere around the area, and that's where you start realizing all of the color beauty of the carpet. It's just an extraordinary experience. The things that I saw underwater there, definitely the most remarkable. One of the things that we use for training for space
Valkyrie is better because she's chick.
Yeah.
So we're way past that one already.
This is McKay. He's from Eva. Yeah. So he was the one that
No one can ever tell you to pick up your room because nothing would ever hit the ground. Pretty cool, huh? On the other hand, if you don't strap down your stuff, it won't stay where you put it. But don't worry, if you find that you've misplaced your comb, pencil, or toothbrush, you'll probably find it at the end of the day, stuck to the vents of the air recycling system. Now, space is a very hostile environment for human beings. Humans trying to live in space are kind of like a fish out of water, which is why the ISS provides all the necessary life support functions you might need. For example, some astronauts kind of what's called space adaptation syndrome, or space sickness, which is why the ISS provides you with your own personal MSS management system. Yes, a barf bag. But don't worry, you'll only need it for the first day or so. But Jared, if you do find you use your EMS, it's very important to get everything in the bag, because otherwise it'll be floating around the cabin. We don't want that. Now, say you're coming out to a long day of spacewalking and you want to get some rest. Well, if you just closed your eyes and drifted off, you'd be drifting off all right. You'd be floating around the cabin, bumping into switches and even other astronauts. Which is why we provide you their own personal sleep restraint unit. Well, let's tuck you into bed. You're gonna stand right over here for me. Now there's an arm pull on either side. Other one too. Just gonna zip you right on up. This last strap to keep your head from bobbing up and down. So Jared, how does it feel sitting strapped to a wall? Feels pretty good. Feels good. I'm so glad you said that. Because next, we're gonna put you in the top bunk. You ready? Not this time. But guys, remember, in the space station, there is no gravity. So there's no left, right, up, or down. So now let's try to sleep along the ceiling right here, one along this wall right here, and one right where I'm standing. And they'll all feel the same. But here on Earth, you wouldn't feel too comfortable sleeping strapped to a wall for 8 hours, so let's get you out of there. Just step right on down and follow me. Go ahead and take a seat on our dual cycle ergometer, or space bike. Grab on those handles and start pedaling. Here's a video for motivation. One of the negative effects of living in microgravity is that it reduces muscle mass and bone density. Think of it as an accelerated aging process. To counteract this, our astronauts will exercise for 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our Expedition 60 crew members aboard the ISS right now use equipment very similar to this, as well as a treadmill and the advanced resistance training device shown in the video right there. But 2 hours of exercise is a bit much for a 30-minute show, so you can stop now. I'm gonna have you stand right over here for me. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, the waste hygiene compartment, or the space toilet. Now, Jared, normally there is a privacy panel covering up this area, but for the sake of public education, that panel has been removed. So that you can demonstrate. Go ahead. No, but you volunteered. You don't need to go? All right, fine. We'll give you a break and just explain how it works instead. Because there's no gravity on the space station, things work a little bit differently. Step number 1 is to turn on the suction. Number 2 goes in here. You can't see from where you're sitting, but it's a really small hole. So you want to be sure to have really good aim and be on target. And when you're sure in the right spot, you go. Since space toilets can't use water, we depend on suction to do the job that gravity would do here on Earth. The suction pulls solid waste into a container and later disposes that container. But liquid waste goes in here. Because water is such a valuable commodity on the space station, we recycle all of it. Meaning, liquid waste goes in here and ends up in here. That's right, we drink it. Again and again and again. Today's coffee is also tomorrow's coffee. How's that for refreshing? Space life is so glamorous. Now I'm gonna have you trade plates for me real quick. Because if you haven't killed your appetite just yet, you're gonna wanna wash your hands before you eat. But, do you notice anything missing to wash your hands? Water. There's no sink, plumbing, water, no nothing. Because water is such a valuable commodity in the space station, our astronauts have to use these hand sanitation wipes to wash their hands, and similar larger wipes to wash their bodies. So go ahead and wash those hands for me. Check it out, you're a pro at this. Good job. And now they're all washed up, I'm gonna have you follow me to the galley area. This is where you and your astronaut friends will be floating around, some right side up, some side down, depending, talking about your day, and of course, prepping your meals. These days, our astronauts have a wide variety of meals and drinks just by adding water. What type of water, Jared? H2O? That same pea water we saw earlier. Delicious. Now remember, if you don't strap down your stuff, it won't stay where you put it. So, say in the middle of dinner, and suddenly, there's an emergency you have to run off and tend to. Well, if you just ran off, you might come back to find your mac and cheese just floating around the cabin. But don't worry, on the back of each package is strapped with Velcro. You also have Velcro on your clothing. And let me tell you, this mac and cheese goes straight to my thighs. Well, let's move on. So we've gone over sleeping, exercising, personal hygiene, and of course food preparation. But there's one last very important part to your astronaut training. See, the ISS is not just a place to live. It's also a space laboratory in which you conduct experiments that'll be impossible to do here in Earth's gravity. And today, you're going to help me show just how we do these experiments. I'm going to have you put your back against this wall right over here as I correct your body scan. All right. Now don't worry, this will only hurt for just a second and leave a very, very small permanent mark. All right, let me input the data real quick. Interesting. All right, Jared, before we complete your astronaut training, I'm gonna have you head back down to your seat so you can see what you do with your body scan. Well, let's give a big round of applause, guys. He was awesome. Delicious. Hey, don't knock until you try it. On Earth, gravity keeps this tasty beverage inside a bottle. but take gravity away and see what happens. Notice how when two smaller blobs of water come together, they merge to form an even bigger blob of water. That's because, without gravity, surface tension becomes the dominant force. And when they come in contact with a surface like that towel over there, a wicking action powerfully sucks it into the towel, kind of like a sponge. Physics appears to behave very differently on the space station. Now, his body scan should be just about ready. Let's go check on it. See if I can pull it up already. Oh, there it is. Hey, it looks just like you. In microgravity, the fluids in your body will slowly start to move upwards, causing your face to become puffier and your arms and legs to become a lot thinner. Our astronauts on the space station have a very, very, very scientific name for this, called chicken legs. The bone in your spine can grow up to 2 inches. Your heart will also gradually shrink in size. But don't worry, once you return to Earth, your heart will return to its normal size. But for issues like calcium loss, amongst other things, recovery is a bit more difficult, which is why our astronauts are willing test subjects to helping us understand the effects of reduced gravity on the human body for our long-term space travelers. In other words, before we can go to Mars, we'll have to invent a way to prevent osteoporosis. Biological processes aren't the only things that work differently on the space station. Chemical reactions work differently as well. And that's one of the things we're going to go over today. Let me just pull it up real quick. 1 second, guys. Oh. There we go. This is a typical candle flame here on Earth, right? Ever notice the shape of it? It forms a teardrop shape. Ever wonder why? Well, the fire makes the air hot, causing the hot air to rise. This causes cooler air to rush and take its place. This process is called convection, and convection will cause this shape right here, to be round at the bottom and pointy at the top. But in microgravity, there is no airflow, so hot air can't rise, cooler air can't rush and take its place, convection can't happen. So what happens? Well, rather than the teardrop shape from earlier, this globe shape appears instead. As it turns out, this globe burns more completely, much cleaner, and far more efficiently than the ones here on Earth. This can be very important for future engine designs. Our research in microgravity on the physical combustion will eventually lead to far more efficient fuels and far less pollution. As you can see, the ISS provides a unique environment to conduct experiments that will be impossible here in Earth's gravity. Here's another example. Say you're trying to combine large amounts of lead and tin. Yes, there we go. Lead is a lot heavier than tin, so the lead would immediately sink to the bottom, while the tin would rise to the top. They wouldn't mix, kind of like oil and water. But take gravity away and see what happens. Without gravity, they mix easily to form a new alloy that can be used in a variety of electronic parts, such as for your cell phone or even your laptop. It's very useful and it can be made here on Earth. The ISS also provides a unique laboratory in which to run experiments for medical research and development. Say you're a scientist researching a nasty bug or disease. Well, in order to do that, you don't have to create a lot of cells to experiment on. The problem is, human cells can't last for very long outside the human body before their own weight crushes them. They would eventually die. But cells go into microgravity, they thrive. They go quicker, larger, and in 3 dimensions. This is a huge medical breakthrough. Our astronauts on the space station can develop these cells in large quantities and run experiments on them, and eventually send the data back down to scientists on Earth to study them further. Our research in microgravity will eventually, in the near future, lead to huge advancements in the topics of disease control, genetics, biochemistry, and even organ transplants. As you can see, the ISS is already helping to better our lives in so many ways today. But what it offers our future is even more exciting. See, the ISS is just a stepping stone in our journey off the planet. Into lower Earth orbit, past the moon, past the asteroids, to our next destination, the red planet of Mars, and perhaps even to the stars beyond. And who knows, maybe our future explorers are seating the audience today. All right, now where is my volunteer? Hey, Jared, can I get back up on the stage?
May 1961. Alan Shepard is the first.
pensaba que eran calientes. Y nosotros éramos el último, ¿verdad?
You see all those patches in the 66 patches standing for all the 66 manned space shuttle missions. We controlled from here and then towards the very top right wall, 3 more patches, and those are for the 3 expeditions we controlled to the International Space Station. Expedition 48, 49, and 50. This room is no longer in active mission control, and our active and current mission control for the International Space Station is located down the hallway. You can also get a live feed from that room on either side of the room on those screens, which gives you an idea of what that room looks like. As you can tell, the 2 rooms do look very similar, and because they're so close to each other, it does make it really easy for this room to be used as the main backup for the current mission control. So anytime the employees aren't able to use the current mission control for whatever reason, they'll be able to use this room instead, which is how we end up controlling 3 expeditions to the ISS from here. However, it is used pretty rarely as a backup. As a matter of fact, the most recent time this room was used as a backup was back in October of last year, so a year ago. And it was because the air conditioning in the current mission control went out. It's a lot warmer than it is now. Another purpose of this room that is also used as a training room for the employees who want to work in the current mission control. So there are, of course, all going to be graduated from college. They will have a degree in the STEM field, and overall they'll train for about 2 to 3 years to actually end up in the current mission control. They're going to start in a classroom learning everything about the International Space Station. And the rest of the training process takes place here in this room. And in this room, the employees are basically beginning their most intense part of training. Basically, every single day in this room, they're working in a simulation and they're controlling a fake International Space Station. And even though it is simulated, it is still very accurate. As a matter of fact, anybody from the current mission control will tell you if they sat behind a console and nobody told them if they're running a simulation or the real deal, they wouldn't be able to tell a difference. There is, however, a difference between working in the 2 rooms, and it's made on purpose. Difference being that in the current mission control, the employees obviously experience a pretty normal day. If anything goes wrong in the current mission control, it's mostly just minor problems, which are actually more like warnings about things like computers running low on battery, maybe temperatures gone up or down a couple of degrees. Very minor, very mundane things like that. But in this room, it's going to be a little bit different. Every single day in this room, the employees will experience as many major and minor problems as possible all at once. So every single day will be a horrible day for these people. And the reason why is because NASA wants them to understand how to handle themselves in case they have the worst day ever in the current mission control with all these problems going on. That way they won't panic, they won't be overwhelmed, they'll know exactly how to deal with it, and also teaches them a really important skill of handling working under so much stress and pressure, which is a very important skill to have if you're going to work in the current mission control. Before I get further into what you're seeing in this room, I do want to go over a couple of misconceptions of mission control and really explain to some of you who may not really know that well what mission control really does. So mission control right now is totally different than what it used to be 50 years ago during the Apollo program and even more recently during the Space Shuttle program. If we take something like the Space Shuttle program, where the astronauts were controlling the spacecraft and mission control was there to control the mission and help the astronauts out in case of an emergency, let's say an astronaut is having a problem on a space shuttle. They're going to call mission control, let them know what's going on. Mission control in Houston will put their heads together and figure out the solution to their problem using their own knowledge as well as manuals and handbooks. They're going to call the astronauts on the space shuttle, let them know which buttons to push, what levers to pull, things like that, and they're going to tell them basically step by step how they can fix the problem on their own. However, the International Space Station is a totally different spacecraft. Basically, the ISS is just a giant laboratory in outer space. The astronauts spend 6 months up there, and the sole purpose of their stay is research. Basically, for those 6 months, every single workday, they're doing scientific experiments and studies. They want to study how life changes, how things grow and progress in zero gravity. Because the astronauts on the ISS have a very important job to do, NASA wanted to spend as much time as possible focusing on that research, which means mission control takes care of everything else, so the astronauts don't have to worry about things like keeping up the oxygen level in the environment inside the ISS. So basically right now, it's mission control that controls the spacecraft, not the astronauts who live on the International Space Station. So right now, if we're having a problem on the International Space Station, the astronauts don't have to say anything because mission control would already know. They're going to see an alarm pop up, somebody's going to press a key, type in a code, press another key. They're going to be able to fix that problem down here from mission control. And they can fix something as small as the camera angle and something as large as the whole water filtration system. And all is done down here from mission control. Another very common misconception about mission control is that mission control is just this room that you're seeing in front of you right now. That's actually false. Mission control is much, much more than just this room. We call this the floor of mission control. The people who end up in this room are the most senior, experienced people in this department. So basically the people you're seeing here are the ones with the most experience in mission control overall. They all started out in back rooms. For every single desk you see here, there's a whole team of backrooms and backroom supporters. There's translators, engineers, things like that, and they're going to be able to help everybody down here on the floor. So even though this could be considered like the main part of mission control, it's not the whole mission control on its own. It's actually much, much more than just this room. But Mission Control, the current one, is going to be open 24/7, 365, so it is always in operation. And not every single desk is going to be occupied every single day. But we do have 5 critical desks which must be manned every single day. So I'm going to go over those just so you guys get an idea what the most important people in Mission Control really do. Starting out with the middle of the room, second desk from the bottom on the left-hand side, you'll see it says Flight Director. So in the current Mission Control, a Flight Director is somebody who controls the entire mission. They're basically the most senior person in Mission Control. Because of that, NASA wants at least one certified Flight Director in this room because they're basically going to be serving as a trainer for everybody else. And for the Flight Director is ETHOS. ETHOS stands for Environmental and Thermal Operation Systems. This person is in charge of the environment inside the ISS. They'll be overlooking things like air quality, pressure, temperature, and other things along those lines. In front of ETHOS is Spartan, or Solar Panel Articulation Thermal Analysis. This person is in charge of the outside, things like solar panels, making sure they're angled properly, absorbing sunlight, as well as making sure the outside of our spacecraft won't overheat or overfreeze because of the extreme temperatures they'll find in outer space. To the left-hand side of Spartan is ADCO, or Attitude Determination and Control Officer, who's in charge of keeping up the ISS's speed and height, making sure it always stays in orbit. To the left-hand side of the Flight Director is Cronus, or Cameras RF Onboard Network Utilization Specialist. This person is in charge of the cameras and computers. And finally, to the right-hand side of the Flight Director is Capcom. Now, Capcom is not critical, but I do like to go over them, because Capcom is Capsule Communicator, the only person in the entire room who actually speaks with the astronauts. And Capcom is always either a retired astronaut or an astronaut instructor. And the reason why is because those people have very good understanding of astronaut terminology, which makes communication between them and the astronauts flow a lot smoother than if anybody else was manning the Capcom desk. If you look all the way in the back, you'll see those 3 big screens which are showing you a variety of things. So I'm going to start with the screen all the way on the left. That shows you 6 live feeds from the International Space Station. So if any of you had any doubt the Earth is round, here is your life proof the Earth is indeed the globe. In the middle, you're going to see a map tracking the live movement of the International Space Station. As you can see right now, the ISS is right over South America. It kind of looks like a gray butterfly with square wings that has a white circle around it. And all the way on the right, that big white screen is usually where all the problems in the simulation would pop up. Now guys, moving on to the final.
It can, but when you have enough of them, you can.
Right on down to the tram place. And tell them you want to go to the restaurant training facility. They'll show you which line to stay. Same time, Saturday night. That's for the office. Fine. Need some time. We help you find yourself connected. I'll be around. That's good. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Hello.